G'day everybody, I'm the FizzWiz, and today we are going to be starting a new series of tutorials for Warframe. Now you might be asking yourself, there's already so many tutorials for Warframe. Why are you making a new tutorial series for Warframe when there's already so many out there? And you're right, there are a lot of Warframe tutorials out there, but one thing I've noticed is there's not a whole lot of tutorials for new players. Not a whole lot of tutorials that cover the basic stuff of the game. Nothing for someone who is really looking to get into the game. Nothing for them, you know. Mainly because a lot of the tutorials are made by advanced players and are for advanced players. They usually cover things such as new weapons, or new mods, or new warframes, new mission types, new quests, things like that. Things for advanced Warframe players to look at. And the thing is, Warframe is a constantly changing game, and the difference between when I started about 3.5 to 4 years ago and whenever any new player starting here within the past month or so, the difference in the beginning games night and day. Back when I first started was completely different to whenever people first start now. So I'm going to be going through Warframe and making a tutorial series for all the new players. That way, anytime you find someone who's new to the game, or if you are new to the game yourself, you can direct them to this video or video series, and hopefully they will be able to learn the basics of Warframe before they get into it. That way they know what it is they're going to be getting into as they decide that they want to play. Obviously, Warframe's free-to-play game, so anybody can jump in, and if they don't like it, no harm, no foul. There's, it's not like they're losing out on some if they, other than time, if they put a little effort into playing Warframe. But one thing I would definitely say is not everybody can get into Warframe. First things first, for this tutorial, not everybody can get into Warframe. It's an extremely grindy game. If you don't like violent shooters with a lot of gory blood, you may not like it, but there's options to turn off the gore and the blood in it. But if you don't like extremely violent shooters or combat games, you may not like it. If you do like action platformers with a lot of grinding, similar to a MMO, kind of similar, you may enjoy Warframe. Just know that you're going to be going in Warframe with a lot to do. Like 6 years of updates worth of content that you're going to have to dig through, which will hold you off for a pretty long while. Probably not as long as some of the older players, because, they had to work through a lot of this content as it was coming out, so it took them longer to get through it. Back when the content was still unrefined, because a lot of the content that gets released for Warframe does end up getting changed a little while after it was released. So it may not take you as long as it did other players to get through this content, but it will still take you a while. And that's one thing that I do tell people who are getting into Warframe is don't expect an easy game. Expect a grind-heavy game, something that's really going to take up your time, something akin to like World of Warcraft or something like that. So that is like number one. One thing real quick right off the bat. It's super grindy. It's not for everybody. I would suggest that it's for a lot of people. I do think that Warframe can appeal to a lot of different types of gamers, but it isn't for everybody. And that is one thing you do have to consider before getting into this, because this is a huge time sink. I've got over 1,000 hours, and other people, especially pro players, have 2 to 3 times as much as I have in it. So that is definitely one quick thing that you will want to know. Another thing, for people who are a bit more in-depth into Warframe, who may or may not decide to watch this, you might notice that the graphical fidelity of Warframe has dropped in my video series, and that is because I am actually playing on the Switch version of Warframe. Yes, it is an inferior version of Warframe. I would much more highly suggest somebody play on PC versus the Switch, but the reason I'm playing on the Switch is because I have completely started over. I'm going from square one on the Nintendo Switch, and I'm streaming it live on twitch.tv/thefizzwiz. For anybody who would like to join me, I will stream Warframe anywhere between the days Tuesdays and Fridays, but that's why Warframe looks like it does, and that's why I'm saying, oh, I've got thousands of hours on it, but I don't hardly have anything unlocked in the video series, is because I'm playing on the Switch version. Now, in the future, I may bring out my PC version and record footage from the PC version to, you know, elaborate on things that I may be talking about in the tutorial. But just know that for the majority of the tutorial, I will be starting from the beginning, so I can do a tutorial on the beginning for other players who are beginners. So, with that in mind, let's get started. Alright, let's get this started off with something that is probably one of the more important things to learn and know about in Warframe. And what am I? Okay, there we go, sorry. One of the most important things that you're going to need to know about Warframe, and that is your landing craft. So first things first is we're going to go around and look at all the different segments of the landing craft. So the first part is going to be probably the most, if not... Okay, let's try that again. The first things first is navigation. Navigation is probably the most, or if not tied for the most important part of your landing craft. This is the area that you're going to go to whenever you are looking for any kind of mission. I'm not going to go through all the mission types today, but I will go through and show you just like how to navigate the navigation system. So first things first is you're going to notice it's going to pull you up to the most recent planet that you are at. The most recent mission I did was on Earth, so it's going to pull me up to Earth whenever I first enter the navigation. I enter the navigation, and it pulls me to Earth. That's because the most recent mission I did was on Earth. Now, what you can do is two different things if you want to swap planets. You can either move down to the tab that says to said planet nearby, and it'll move you like that, just like here, back to Earth. Or you can simply just zoom out and select the planet you want. Pretty easy. And pretty much a lot faster. Now, all of the little diamonds you see here are nodes. These are mission nodes. These are the types of missions that you're going to see whenever you go into it. So if I were to select a mission here, this mission labeled Lith, Defense Grineer, level 1 through 6, as soon as I enter that, I'm going to be entering the mission type, which in this case is Defense. If I want to enter into Mantle, that mission type, Capture. Mariana, that mission type, Exterminate, on and on. So not only will they list the mission type, they'll also list the faction that controls it. In this case, this is the Grineer. So if I were to go to Venus and select the mission type here, it would say the faction that controls here, this area, is the Corpus. That is important for later on. You'll also see the levels. Now, the levels aren't super important, as quite often the levels of enemies that you'll come across don't always start in this area. Some of them will start in the level suggestion there, like the level 3 through 5. Other enemies will spawn higher. A few enemies might spawn lower, but one thing to keep in mind is as you progress in the level, they will grow past level 3 and 5. They will not stay in levels 3 through 5. They will grow past it. Like, save for a few instances, they will pretty much always go past the suggested level. So don't always take that to don't always take that as, you know, fact of the types of levels of enemies that you're going to come across. Not only that there are a select few cases which you will not have to worry about at all right now. In the future, you will have to keep an eye on the level of the mission type, but like I said, that's only a select few cases, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Up here on the top left, you can also see your current queue status. I'm set to friends only. You can set yourself to solo, meaning that you will go into a mission, and you will be in that mission by yourself, regardless. Nothing can happen to be invaded by another player. Nothing will happen like that. There's invite only, meaning that you will accept invites, or you will receive invites from people on your friends list who might invite you to a game. They can't invade your game, but they can send you an invite to another game while you are in the middle of a mission. Friends only is a setting that allows your friends to invade in your mission as long as you've not already completed the objective. And then there's public, where in public mode, if you set yourself to public and you look at missions, you'll see the amount of squads on that mission, meaning the amount of squads, which a squad is a team of 4 Tenno, in a mission that are available for you to join, or are at least doing that mission. So in this case, there's one squad open. So if I joined in, I would either do one of two things. I would either join in the one available squad, or if that squad is already full, I will initiate a new squad that will be open for new players to join in. Sometimes it will wait for new players to join in on the squad for initiating the mission. Sometimes it will just push you into the mission, and as you progress, new random players will show up in the middle of the mission with you. So that is something to keep in mind. If you want to play with just any random ass person, you can put yourself in public. If you want to play with friends only, put yourself on friends only, invite only, or solo. Invite only and solo are pretty much going to keep you by yourself, but invite only basically just allows the capability of friends to send you invite to their missions. I often play in friends only, but my friends usually don't invade me, but I am also on the Switch version, which means I don't have as many friends on the Switch version. Now, another thing you can look at is right up here on the top right. You can also hit the R shoulder button to pull up a list of things. This here is the quest and alert mission tabs. Actually, no, never mind. This is just the quest tabs. You're going to see about 3 or 4 more tabs show up here as you progress through the game. But here in the beginning, all you're going to need to know are 4 of them. One that's not shown up. There's the quest tab, which is the tab that shows you where to go in order to get to your next objective, in which case this was the Mercury Junction. So my next objective, according to the game's progression, is to get to the Mercury Junction. So if I click on the right and I click that, it's going to instantly tell me where I would like or would need to go next according to the quest I have selected. The other thing is the invasion tab. Now, this is something you're not going to worry about right now, but invasions are something that you will eventually have to deal with. It's not in-game, it's more like a mid-game thing. There are a couple invasions that can be beginner-friendly, but invasions are a way to get some of the more rare resources. So that is something you're going to have to do eventually. And then there's void features. I'm not going to talk about void features, and I will tell you why later. But as for now, leave that alone. And then there's going to be one more tab. It's going to look like a caution sign. It's not up here right now because I don't think I have the capability in this save file just yet. But it'll show up and it'll tell you all the different kinds of things between, hey, there's an alert mission for so many credits, or hey, there's an alert mission for a mod, or an alert mission for an aesthetic item. Those alert missions, which are special missions that will give you special rewards, will pop up and it will tell you it there. Often alert missions are actually timed, so you are limited in the amount of time that you're able to get to them. So that's pretty much it for the navigation tab. Up next will be the news station. Now, if you pause the game and you head pretty much any of these, there's navigation, equipment, market, and pretty much just these 3. These can activate as quick travels to different parts of your ship. News and Conclave here are not part of those, and neither is the Codex or Syndicate, which is not available for me just yet. There are places that you can quick travel. For example, if I'm standing on the opposite end of my ship and I don't want to walk, I can just pause and hit navigation and bam, it'll pull me straight to navigation. I want to pause and I hit equipment and I want to go to my foundry, or that's inventory. This actually will bring up a list of your inventory. Not super important right now. If I want to go to my foundry, bam, brings me to my foundry. We're not going to worry about that right now. So that is something else that you may want to keep in mind. There are some things that you cannot fast travel to simply because they are either in really short distance to each other or not extremely relevant to the main core gameplay. Up here is the news station. You're going to find any news updates or bulletins posted by DE. If you are in the middle of a game and you get a hotfix and you end up having to restart the game, the hotfix notes will usually be popped up here on the news station. Here's the Conclave. This is the PvP. I will not be going over PvP in my tutorial. I might eventually one day, but for the beginner tutorial, no. And to anyone starting Warframe, I would highly suggest don't mess with the PvP. Maybe one day if you get curious and you're further along in the game, yeah, go dabble into PvP, but nobody really likes it. There's a couple people that do like it, but it's not the core aspect of the game. There's another thing over here called syndicates. If you're just starting out the game, and obviously, as you can see, since this profile is a brand new profile, You're not going to worry about syndicates right now. Don't worry about syndicates. At least not at this moment. You can eventually, as soon as you unlock them, then you can start worrying about them. They're not major, but you know they're there. You know, they're just there. There's some things they have that's important, but it's not required or anything. Up next is the Codex. The Codex is an area where you'll be able to log and locate information, obviously. The first tab here is for quests. This is the first quest you're going to come across, and it's going to be automatically complete by the time you're able to get into the Codex, because it is the tutorial quest. Up next will be Saya's Sigil, which you can unlock at Cetus, and then there's Halakubrow and Once Awake, which you get once you get to Mercury. Those are pretty good quests. If you click to the next tab, this is the universe. Now this is the universe tab, and this is where you're going to get most of your information. You're not going to see a whole lot of stuff, save for like Warframes, and I believe weapons. Yeah, Warframes and weapons. Everything else is pretty locked down tight when it comes to information. But that is because you're going to need a codex scanner and to scan these things. Now, this isn't super important. Don't feel the need to rush and grab a codex scanner ASAP. That's something that you can do passively. It's not extremely important, so don't worry about it. But if you do find yourself looking for any information about anything, you can always come to the codex, or you can just look up stuff online. If there's anything about something in the game that doesn't make sense, but you can look up information about mods. Whew, that took a little while. You can look up information about cephalon fragments, which are things you're going to find throughout the levels. I'll go over those later, among other things. And what is that doing? Okay, I have the one quick note. I have, since I'm using the Nintendo Switch version, I do have the motion control on. So I'm assuming that's why every time I leave a menu, it's going crazy. Here's the tutorial sections of the game, but there's a reason why I am making a tutorial video. That is because these tutorials are not good. They're extremely lengthy, and they're nothing but words. Just a bunch of words. And you can read these. If you prefer read tutorials, obviously you can read those instead of looking up videos. But quite often it kind of just depends from person to person. Sometimes a video is a lot more accessible and easier to understand than a textbook. And here's missions. This is also information on the different types of missions. Same thing with the training. The missions kind of tutorials, only instead of about actions, it's about the types of missions you're going to come across. And I'm also going to cover these as well, but not in this video, like I said earlier. So that's pretty much all you're going to find in the Codex. Let's move on down. Actually, let's move over here. Up next is the market. Now, this is something extremely important, something I want to get across immediately. A lot of new players will come over here to the market, not understanding how it works, and instantly start purchasing things that they don't need. If you look up here on the top right, you're going to see two numbers. You're going to see your credit value, which is represented on the number to the left, and your platinum value, which is represented by the number on the right. A lot of people will look at these two and just think that they are equal in value. That is not the case. Credits is completely in-game, while platinum is something that you can only obtain through two different means. You can either purchase platinum from the online store, or you can trade other things with other players. It is an actual currency that you use with other players. Platinum is used to purchase weapons and rush builds that you don't want to wait for. A lot of people will look at that. For example, let's go to a weapon here. A lot of people will go to this weapon here and they'll say, gee, that's a lot of plat. Well, I guess I have to grind for plat to get that weapon. That is not the case. Platinum is a currency that can only be purchased through real money, meaning that a lot of people will look at this and think, oh, if I have to buy platinum with real life money and I can only get these weapons through platinum, this game must be pay to win. And that is far from the truth. That is not the case. Save for a select few weapons, every single weapon can be obtained through a thing called blueprints. And if you look over here and you tab to the right, you can see that there's what's called a blueprint. Now, the blueprint costs credits, and credits are much easier to obtain than platinum is, trust me. So what, and I'm going to get into this a bit later, but essentially what you will be using the market for is obtaining blueprints. There are a couple of other things that you can do that you cannot buy blueprints for. For example, boosters. These here are boosters. Affinity booster, credit booster, resource booster, and drop chance boosters. Don't worry about that last one. Essentially, you can not buy these with credits. These have to be purchased with platinum. There are a couple of things like that in the game that can only be purchased with platinum. And there are also other things in game that can be purchased through credits or through other means, but are only available here through platinum because they are obtained through different means. Like this right here, I can buy this with credits. It's very complicated, it's very confusing, but it's not something you're going to have to worry about too much. So the first things first is something I'm going to suggest to you is if you're going to want to build weapons, you're going to want to go to the type of weapon you want, whether that's weapon, primary, secondary, or melee. And what I would suggest you do is hit the right shoulder button. Bam. This instantly sorts all weapons to weapons that you can purchase blueprints of. So if I go to the Latron here, I can purchase this weapon's blueprint. But if I had untabbed it, and if I were to say go to the Braden, that's just a weapon I can buy with credits. But if I went to the Strun, oh, that's another weapon. I don't think there's any weapons on here that I can't buy. Like here. This is a weapon that I cannot purchase the blueprints for. That's because this weapon is obtained through another means. That does not mean that you have to use platinum to purchase this weapon. So don't sit here and look at it and say, oh, they want platinum for this weapon and I can't buy the blueprints. Therefore, the only way to obtain this weapon is through platinum. Don't think like that. That's not the case. Warframe is a game where almost everything you can obtain through paying for it, you can also obtain by working for it. Same things with Warframes. You can actually obtain Warframes through their blueprints. For the most part. I'm not going to go through it yet, but there is more stuff to this market and sequentially the Foundry, but that will be for another video. Next part is a scanner. That's all it does. It doesn't actually do anything. It creates background noise, and it's annoying, and I hate it, so I keep it off. Up next is your mod collection. This is where you're going to store all mods. Mods is going to be another huge thing that I'm going to cover. I don't know when it is, but I will be covering this here shortly, probably before I do any of the mission stuff. But this is where you're going to find mods. Here you can mess around with your mods. You can fuse mods, transmute mods, sell mods, or dissolve mods. I'm going to cover this stuff further in detail later, but real quick, do not transmute mods. The transmutation system is broken and you will get ripped off all the time. Do not transmute mods. Ever. But here's a couple of things you can do. You can sort your mods by all. You can sort your mods by Warframe, meaning mods that are only usable by Warframes. You can sort your mods by primary, mods that can only be used by primary weapons. Secondary weapons, melee weapons, Exilus mods, which I will be covering later, and then any mods that you may have more than one of. You can also go here. You can sort them by their type. You can sort them by their polarity. You can sort them by their rank. And you can also sort them by their rarity. or most recently acquired. I often will sort them by their duplicate. That's usually what I do. But like I said, I will be covering mods later. Next up is your foundry. This is where all of your blueprints will go. Unless a blueprint in the game gets removed at some point, all blueprints that you obtain will show up here until they have been used up and completed. Why do I have 2 of these? I don't need 2 of these. I don't understand why I have 2 of these. Anyway, I will be covering this a bit more. This isn't as big of a topic, but it is something I will probably dedicate a video to because it's extremely important, but not super complex. You can sort through these by all blueprints ready to build. And obviously, because I don't have any mods of other types, it's only going to show the mods that I have: secondary, sentinel, landicraft, gear, and miscellaneous. There's other tabs for warframes, primary weapons, secondary weapons, and vehicles and things like that. And just like the mods, you can sort them by rank, name, state, and type. State, I believe, means... I don't really know what state means, actually. And then there's type, meaning the type of them they are, whether they're weapons, sentinel, gear, or miscellaneous. I usually sort them by name. So that's the foundry. And up next is the incubator segment, which is not I am going to cover, and I'm probably going to cover this whenever I unlock it in game, which is actually quite early on in game. As soon as you get to Mercury, you do unlock the Howl of the Kubrow quest, and that will unlock this segment for you. Another segment you won't have to worry about is this, and this is just for your sentinels, which I believe you can do at literally any point in time that you have a sentinel. So if I were to build this sentinel right now, which I'm not going to right now, it'll show up in my arsenal, and whenever I equipped it, it will just pop up here. It's not super important. Up next is the relic segment, which Void Relic Console offline segment required. I don't have the segment for this, so I can't cover it, and I wasn't going to cover it because... and I will talk about this here in a minute. Void relics are not important for new players. Don't get the idea that you need a void relic, or that you need to constantly farm void relics. And why is Volt always looking to the left? Is there something you need to look at? What are you looking at? Whatever. Up next, and probably the most important part of your landing craft, probably tied with your navigation system, is your arsenal. Your arsenal is the area of your ship that you will build and modify and create your loadouts. So there are different segments to your arsenal. Your Warframe segment, right here. Your primary weapon segment here. Secondary weapon segment here. Melee segment here. Companion, gear, and emote segments. Obviously, if you click on one of these tabs or hit the corresponding button, you will bring up a list of all the items that belong under this tab. Like if I click equipped in the Warframe loadout, it will bring me a list of Warframes. If I hit equip in the primary weapon, it's going to bring me a list of primary weapons. And then same thing with secondaries, melees, and I just equipped nothing. So on and so forth. Same thing with companions. I don't have any companions right now, but as you can see, it pulled the camera over to this little segment because that's where they like to hold their sentinels, like I said earlier. And then there's also gears, gear wheels, which it seems like the Switch version has not gotten the updated version of the gear wheel yet, but that's okay. And emotes. I don't know if the consoles have the updated version or not. They may have it. So this is all pretty easy. This is also the area in which you will modify your weapons and warframes. You just make sure you're hovering over the thing you want to equip or modify, and you just hit either the tab or corresponding button, and it will just bring you to whatever you want. Obviously, not complicated at all. There's also the appearance, which is your color tab, which is super fun because you get to do shit like this. Yeah, would you look at that? Got an achievement. It's randomized colors, and Why is my helmet not being randomized? That doesn't make sense. I'm assuming that's a bug. Your helmet should be colored. It should be trying to color, and why is it? Yeah, I'm assuming this is a Warframe bug for the Switch. But what should happen is my helmet should be colored. Because if you can look at that, my whole body is being changed different colors, but the head is not. So that is, I believe, a bug. I do not want to keep those colors. You can also do things as... Oh, now you want to keep the colors. You can also look at skins, different kinds of skins. You can look at animation sets, which will change your Warframe's animation. I just want to preview them. I do not want to select them. Oh, you hit Y to preview. Okay, you hit Y to preview. Probably the same thing here. You can preview it. Hit Y to preview it. Just different elements. You can also look at attachments, such as chest pieces, things like that. Armor segments, which don't actually change anything other than visual looks.
A new alert has begun. It will be marked on navigation.
Be like this. They're not actual armor, it just makes it look different. And those can also be colored. And then there's also Siamdanas, which are basically essentially capes. And so on and so forth. And there's also regalia, which is basically the same thing as everything else. And this is the same case for everything. Weapons can have specific skins. Some weapons have different skins. I can make them look different. And some weapons do have attachments, like different looking arrows. And of course, you can also color them. You can also tell it to copy the color of your Warframe in case you want a matching set. So there's a whole bunch of different things that you can do here in the Foundry. You can also look at loadouts. Oh, hold up. Which, at the beginning, you're not going to have any loadouts, so don't worry about it. But you will earn a new slot at Mastery Rank 2, and you also earn a new slot later on. And there's also modes, which Conclave has a separate type of modding system. So that is something I actually don't know a whole lot about. That's because I never messed with Conclave, and that's because it's not super important. But it's always good to know. And there is a third one for vehicles that will show up in between them whenever you unlock the capability of using vehicle-type weapons. And then there's this spot down here. Now, I already know what all of this is. There's 3 doors. One door that is covered in gobbledygook. Another door that has a little symbol that shows up and goes away as you walk towards it. And then a completely boring and blank-looking door, surrounded by ominous fog. So, I already know what all of this is, but I'm not going to say anything, because that is spoilery. And I like to keep things that are spoilery secrets, because whenever you finally figure out what it is, you're going to be like, oh, it's going to be amazing, and you're going to love it. So that is essentially it whenever it comes to your landing craft. Now, there's a bunch of other niche little details and such. For example, in your equipment tab here, you can go to landing craft, and you can decorate. But I don't have any decorations. How do you get out of the decoration? Oh, there we go. You can also color. Such as this. You can do the random colors as well. So, do with that as you please. Just make it look as beautiful as you want or as eye-bleeding as you want. So, that's pretty neat. So that's pretty much it whenever it comes to your landing craft. Now, this is one of the most important things you're going to need to know whenever you first start out in Warframe, because if you don't know how to walk around your own home base, you're not going to know how to do anything else in the game. So as for my next tutorial, I will most likely be going further in detail into your arsenal. Okay, that sounded weird. I'm going to be going over the arsenal system next, followed by, and maybe or may not be accompanied by the mod system. So until then, this is FizzWiz, and I will see you guys next time.